We finally uncovered the name of the real killer in Incredibox Sprunki, and it turned out to be why did Gray kill almost all the Sprunki and why he is the main killer. In this video, I will prove this theory. We already know a lot about Incredibox Sprunki. Many were killed, and while there were several killers, only Wenda has been officially confirmed so far. However, Black has now become the main suspect in conspiring with Wenda, while Lime, whom we long suspected of killing Ratty and other Sprunki, building a pretty solid theory around it, has turned out to be dead. This revelation completely dismantled all our previous guesses, theories, and speculations. Of course, we're familiar with the story of the phase transition and its consequences, how the characters interacted, who survived, and who turned into monsters. We know for sure who died, but every time new information comes from the developer, our understanding of the Sprunki world gets turned upside down. We were confident that Lime was alive because, compared to others, his injuries seemed relatively minor. But now it's been revealed that he's dead, making the theory of Lime being the second killer obsolete. We don't even know the true number of victims claimed by these killers. Officially, only one has been confirmed, Tunner, who was killed by Wenda using his own weapon. Few have paid much attention to one seemingly insignificant character, Mr. Fun. Let's listen to what he says in the second phase because his words will set the tone for the first part of this wild video. All these phases, the deaths, the monsters, the deranged Wenda, what if they are all part of something entirely unreal? I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm not blind. I see it all. What I'm suggesting is that these events might not have taken place in the real world of Incredibox Sprunki, but somewhere else. Sorry if that sounds confusing, but it'll make sense in a moment. Mr. Fun is the only character capable of understanding and speaking human language. He constantly repeats phrases like, "You can't hide here," "Everyone is dead." But the most intriguing part is when he talks about these characters and events being unreal. And his endlessly repeated warning, "Run, run, run," makes it seem like he's addressing us directly, urging us to escape before we're dragged into this nightmare ourselves. But there's a small inconsistency in his words. Mr. Fun claims that everyone is dead, yet we know for a fact that not all Sprunki have died. Simon and Veneria, for example, transformed into monsters, meaning they survived. Gray and Jevin also made it out alive, as did the other killer or killers. And I won't even mention the creatures who don't resemble Sprunki. That's too obvious. Among them, of course, is Mr. Fun himself, and this detail will be crucial a bit later. Even within this inconsistency, there are clues that suggest this might all be someone's twisted dream. We've been officially told that Gray is the central figure of the second phase. Meanwhile, in the first phase, the main character isn't Wenda, Black, Jevin, or even Gray. It's the seemingly insignificant yet highly important Simon. Right now, this information might not mean much, but I'm convinced that in the future, the developer will reveal much more about this connection. The second phase, being a dream, is a plausible theory, supported by several strange details. First, let's consider the background behind the dead Sprunki. It feels incredibly unnatural. There are eerie eyes in the sky, and the time of day is ambiguous. The sun seems to either be rising or setting. This bizarre atmosphere surrounding the second phase might even hint that this is one of the variations of hell in the Incredibox Sprunki universe. The disturbing faces, particularly those of Black and the characters who turned into monsters, are also worth noting. Many of us have experienced dreams with grotesque creatures, so this could be another subtle indication that we're dealing with a dream. But the most compelling evidence lies in the sheer illogicality of events and the Sprunki's actions. For instance, we're told that 90% of the Sprunki have died, yet they appear completely alive. Even if we dismiss the idea of them being dead, characters like Tunner and Lime are officially confirmed to have been killed, yet they look and act just like the living. How else can this be explained if not as a deranged dream or something similar? And as I mentioned earlier, Mr. Fun literally states that none of this is real. Considering Gray is officially the central figure of the second phase, it's highly plausible that this is simply his horrific and vile nightmare. This interpretation starts to make more sense when we examine the relationships between the characters. We know there's conflict between Wenda and Tunner, as well as between Lime and Ratty, but most of the other Sprunki get along relatively well. It's odd that they'd suddenly decide to kill each other, especially while entirely changing the setting of the events. This dream theory ties everything together more logically, highlighting the surreal and chaotic nature of the second phase. There's also a theory that this isn't a dream at all, but actually hallucinations caused by Gray himself. Think about Mr. Fun's words, and now take a good look at Gray. Can we really deny that a Sprunki this unstable could be having hallucinations? Gray might have created this terrifying world in his head. A world where everything is just wrong. Some turned into monsters, some lost their minds, and others straight up died. What's really weird is how Gray is right at the center of all this. We see him alive, but he's scared out of his mind. That strange look in his eyes, it's like he's been through this nightmare before. And every time, he's praying it'll finally stop, but that last time just never comes. And you can practically feel the panic eating him alive. That's exactly what we're seeing in the second phase. Now let's talk about Black, who low-key adds fuel to this theory. What if he's not even real? He doesn't show up in the first phase. There's just his icon. And when you pick him, boom, you're thrown into the second phase, where Black looks all kinds of creepy and messed up. Here's where it gets interesting. What if Black is some kind of metaphor? Maybe for medication. Hang with me for a second. It makes sense. In the first phase, Gray already looks a little shaky, like something's seriously off with him. That could hint at a mental health struggle, maybe depression or something similar. And here's the kicker. Gray's condition might have gotten worse over time because of his tendency to hallucinate. He probably managed to keep those hallucinations in check with meds for a while. But now, it looks like the meds backfired. During one of his panic attacks, Gray took his pills, and instead of helping, they dragged him into an even darker and more horrifying place. But this is just the beginning of this twisted story. Remember how I mentioned that it's been officially confirmed Gray is the main character of the second phase? Yet, popular opinion insists Wenda is the real killer, and leaks from the developers seem to back that up. Now, take a closer look at these two characters, and oh my god, they're actually super similar. Once again, let's recall Mr. Fun's cryptic words. He claims that everything happening isn't real, but most of the Sprunki are dead. And this is where things get really interesting. What if the second phase, as we see it, is just a product of Gray's sick imagination? Or better yet, his hallucinations? Gray could have created all of this as a way to avoid facing the truth that he is the real killer in the world of Incredibox Sprunki. To shield himself from that horrifying realization, he invented Wenda as the villain, a twisted version of events where she's the one who killed everyone. But then comes the moment of clarity. The realization that this Wenda he's concocted is nothing but an illusion. When Gray finally confronts the truth, that in the real world he is the one who killed the Sprunki, we get that haunting, terrified look on his face. So, what does this all mean? It turns out that everything we think we know about the world of Incredibox Sprunki is both a lie and the truth.